Welcome to episode 2 of the Stowe course. Today we're going to be digging into a bit more of the meat around what I use VWAP for. We're going to look at two things. We're going to look at slope and how I use VWAP slope and the standard deviations of VWAP to identify trend reversals. And then we're also at the end going to be stacking up monthly, weekly, and daily VWAPs and showing how I use that to create more of a broader market narrative. That being said, I'm not a high time frame trader, etc., but I do use those to always have in the back of my head, like, where are we at relative to those locations. Disclaimer on this for sure is all of this is hindsight. There's really no way to do this without looking backwards. But I'm going to do my best to do one example of a time that it works and one example of a time when it doesn't work so that you can see both and know that in fact, just like most trades, this fails, 48% of the time. If I'm lucky, like if I'm doing a good job, this is going to be wrong a lot. We'll just go ahead and dive right in. And the first thing I want to show you here is this is just VWAP and its standard deviations without any candles. And we're going to start there. Okay, here we go. All right, so what we've got here is just VWAP bands, VWAP itself. This is a RTH VWAP session, but it could easily be a week or a month. These concepts apply to those timeframes also. And just like we approach the market in the morning and we wait for information to develop, VWAP's the same. So it's going to open up right at RTH open, and it's not going to have much information. And the longer it goes and the more price trades, the more information it's going to have. So as a rule, I don't necessarily pay attention to these bands or RTH VWAP itself until at least 15 minutes into the session, closer to 30 minutes, to be honest. But we'll go through that, and we'll also explain things that you can use from the previous session to give you an idea for a roadmap within those first 15 minutes. There is often a trade there for me. I'm not saying don't trade that, but those setups and playbooks are different. We'll get that on a different episode. Anyway, so we get about 15 minutes into the session, which is around here. And we see that we have been pointed almost straight down in the bottom VWAP. I assume that price is in here pushing this, and then we make a very quick reversal out of it. I know that because of the extreme change in that slope. As you can see, it goes from almost like, I don't know, it's almost pointing straight down and to the right to much more flat and then starts to curve up. I have a bunch of rules that are all built around these VWAP bands. And as we go through the course, I'm going to explain them to you just as they come up naturally. Disclaimer on those, they're not for everybody. They're just for me. They're just rules that I've created for myself to keep my trading as profitable as it can be, which means losing the least amount of money, right? So one rule I have is if it's about 9:15 and I'm ready to, get in the mix, if I see price in this bottom band and it's sloping down, I'm not allowed to buy that. I'm just not. I'm not allowed to buy it. So I can't be long in here until price retraces and gets back above this and I see this band start to flatten out. I assume the price is up here by now, for sure. I don't know yet. We'll turn on the candles at the end and see what happens. I really don't know. Or at least if I did know, I don't remember anymore. But I know because this started to slope up slightly. It's not a 45 degree, but it's decent. The price is probably up here. Now, this becomes a play. I have a play here. I'll share it with you. It's super, super easy. You can write this down, whatever, come back to the thing. This is a playbook trade right here. Ready? Opening drive in a direction, followed by a pullback, and then a retrace to the other side of balance here. That's it. Now, I don't know what these candles did, but I know from this slope that this was an aggressive move higher. And then I know from this slope that it was a push lower. And then I know because the slope flattened out that we had the opportunity to at least retrace to VWAP and then the other side of balance. So I try to get in here. This is target 1, and this is target 2. Now, this often happens. Almost every day this sets up in one direction or the other. I'm not as good as taking the short ones just because of the way I see the market, but it doesn't mean that they're not there. So just go over that one last time. Opening drive up, followed by reversal. VWAP band flattens out, and then your targets are VWAP itself, other side of balance. The other thing I want to explain while we just have VWAP up here is the way that I think about VWAP and the standard deviation bands, whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly, is I consider anything within one standard deviation of VWAP itself balanced. And if you remember from the intro, markets have two moods for me. They are either imbalanced or they're balanced. Either somebody's mad and thinks price is too high or too low, or everybody's cool and they want to keep it wherever it is. There are often days where price spends most of its time in between the -1 and the +1 standard deviations of the mean in this scenario is VWAP, right? And that is balanced. This is, orbiting around itself, living if it wants to in here. It's balanced. Now, the times that it spends in the lower bands, when those bands are sloping, I consider that imbalance. And, often what happens is this is a pretty big part of trading the open, and then even more so trading like 10 a.m. to noon is these little shifts and balances as London is closing and, the U.S. is taking over all the volume. I don't know. That's just the narrative I have in my mind for it. I don't know if that's real. But yeah, you'll see these shifts in balance between the two VWAPs, and then you'll see a trend again. I assume that what happened here is we flattened out, price got back into balance, which we consider, -1 to +1. I assume we got to VWAP itself, and then I assume we got inside of the +1, which is, this is kind of a crazy day, to be honest. It had an opening drive up, followed by a big reversal lower below the open, and then retrace the whole thing, and it looks like it trended above. So, that's a pretty nasty move, right? So, yeah. So I'm going to turn the candles on now, and we can see what price actually did. But just to go over those concepts again, anything within +1 and -1, I consider balance. Anything above +1, I consider imbalanced up, and anything below, more example here, anything below -1, I consider imbalanced down. In that moment, not for the day, because you don't know. And that's the other thing I want to point out here too, is like when we're trading this, or when we're trading this, we don't know this other stuff yet. We don't know what the rest of the day does. So all that we can tell, imagine if we got into a trade right here. Right here at 10:07, we see, price is holding. It's starting to trend up. We're in our slope. We're doing all of our things. We don't have any of this information. This could have been a quick blip and then reversed. We were trading the hard right edge. So as you look at hindsight examples of this, please keep that in mind, that just because this may look easy to jump in this trend here, it's not like that in real life because you don't know the rest of the day yet. I just want to preface that as hard as I can, because this is how people get taken advantage of by looking at cookie cutter examples of trading and thinking that that's going to happen every time. So Just promise me you're not going to do that. And then, all right, I'll turn the candles on. We'll take a look from here. All right. So here we have the whole day, and with candles, price action, all that stuff. I'm actually a little surprised. I'm going to zoom in so we can talk about this. We're going to get pretty granular here, but that's how it's like to day trade this. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, so we open. The initial opening drive, not as strong as I thought that it was. You see we have several losses of the +1 here. A couple of pullbacks of VWAP itself, but like, yeah, this is not that strong of an uptrend. So interesting. And I gave this a lot more credit just based on the slope. So that's cool to know. This was a really aggressive pullback. I mean, I don't even know if I would call it a pullback. Just like, this is just selling. You're outside of the -2. Anytime you get out of here, you're in an extreme environment. I never initiate trades out here, ever. If I do, it's a mistake. So I guess I don't never do it, but in a perfect world where I always obeyed my process 100% of the time, I definitely don't initiate outside of the -2 or the +2 standard deviation bands. Yeah, really big. And this is the other part. When the day turned around right here. So if we zoom in, we can really see this flatten in real time. And it really was a quick reversal. I don't know. I don't see an entry here for me. This looks like a big squeeze reversal. Maybe this was like some 9:45 news, something. I don't know, but like realistically, I don't get in here ever. That's too fast. I need to see this get up inside a balance, flatten out, get a retest, keep going. That's my A+ there. So yeah, realistically, this is not a trade. You know I walked you through what the playbook would be. Now that we've got candles, though, I highly doubt I get in here. I just wouldn't be fast enough. We do see price quickly goes to the other side of balance and then retraces again to the other side of balance before it does a complete reversal. I mean, this day, when zoomed in on, is pretty gnarly. I mean, that's a big pullback on this big of a move out of a sell-off. Man, yeah, this day was nasty. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it sucked in the time, too. Didn't quite get down to -1 here. We did get to the other side of balance, and as I suspected, because in order to trend up like that during, 10 to 11, you got to be in the band. So this is more, this is another A+ here. We have made a dent in the band up and pulled back, and we're holding it. So I'm definitely getting long here. I probably bought this in real life. I don't remember, but I would be surprised if I didn't. If you look back here, the same scenario does occasionally exist on the downside. I don't take these trades. I don't take them. I'm not good at taking them. So I just don't. It's more positive EV for me not to take these trades than to take them. But if you're somebody who can take them, they're there. Do with that what you will. So yeah, we party right out of this. I mean, we one retest to the +1, and we're straight up. We're outside of the +2. I'm probably flat here. I really hold a trade out here too if I'm long. Just, trying to take those base hits. Here's a little blip here, but then you can see the trend kind of fade, and this is also what I wanted to point out too. Slope is relative, right? It's all going to be your own perception of it, so I don't want to try to give you too many examples of this. Hopefully you can organically see it developing throughout the day and see that pattern for what it is, or maybe come up with your own patterns that also work. But the way that I look at this is like, this is very clean slope. This is like a proper 45-degree angle. This is pretty gnarly. In order for price to be doing this, it has to be really bidding. And you'll see that in other ways that we'll get into with Delta and stuff, but like this is a buyers only party, and only buyers are invited. Once you get into this is still good. Like this is still a good slope. But you can see that it's getting wavy. You can see that it's flattening out, going up again, flattening out. So this is when, the end of the day trade becomes a little more difficult. Also, is these lines are less extreme, and there's less opportunity to put like a really tight stop on that, because it becomes a little more fluid, for lack of a better word. I don't know how else to say it. So you can see we get this, and we get a little pop. I probably take this too. I'm sure I'm also adding here. I probably take, 10 points. This is, 61 to 82. I probably take one off, holding for continuation. We make a lower low, deeper into balance. I'm like, I'm getting less sold on this idea. We do come up and make another, good push, and then we really lose it here. This is what I'm really looking for. Breaking down, made a lower low, that sort of thing. So those are signals that are like, hey, dude, party's over, maybe, for now. It's not for forever. It's just for now. But throughout the day, price, for the most part, stays up here in the top half of balance. I mean, it gets a little, like, this is a great example. Pull back to VWAP itself. It's holding. This is a little squirrely. Actually, I do remember this. I got stopped out right here like 4 times. That sucked. That's so funny. I do remember this exact trade now. But then back to the other side of balance. But so you see, like, we've returned to balance in here. You could call this bullish balance and this bearish balance on the other half if you want to. Some people do. It's fine. I don't. I just consider this whole thing balance. And then we ultimately end the day at the lows of the -1, which is also weird. So this whole day, lots of super weird stuff, not cookie cutter at all. But there are moments in there where you can find trades. And that's really all that I'm looking to do. And as we look at this example, like, it's not perfect. It's kind of terrible a lot of the time. But there are lots of trades in there. Trades that I know I took. Like, I know I took this ad for sure. I took this initial trade 100%. I know I took this ad, and I got stopped out on half. And I probably took a couple losses in here trying to keep this trend going. But then I definitely took this. I took this ad here, and then once it reclaimed again, I definitely took it to the other side of balance. I'm positive, because these are all plays. And all you need to do to have a successful playbook is you just have to figure out how, when the market is on your side or when variance is on your side, that you make more money than when variance is against you and the market is against you, that you lose in those moments. That's it. That's all you have to do. Next, we are going to dive into the idea of stacking up multiple time frame ideas into a market context that you can kind of have floating around in the back of your mind. We've used this small day example to understand slope, the different times of slope, balance. You can call this bullish balance, bearish balance down here. But we can kind of tell the story of this day now. Opening drive higher, liquidate low, reclaim here that, realistically, we're not able to catch. This is a great short, actually. This is another play. I just can't do it. But this is a great play. Liquidating, trending down, reverse to the other side of balance, that's a ton of points off of that. Just off of this tiny idea that if you're more bearish than me, you can see. And then, trend reversal again, all kinds of good stuff in this day. But once you have an idea of how to look at this kind of price action and see the shift in context happening in front of you, it will really open you up to lots of opportunities to create those plays. Because as scalpers or as day traders, all we're trying to do is just capture like a little nip of the thing, right? We're just 2-lot traders or whatever at best. So we're just trying to get in and do a little business and get back out again. That's how I look at it. So this gives you an idea of parts of the day that you can hone in on and take chunks out of, if that makes any sense. So yeah, let's flip over and we're going to walk through this from the highest time frame to the lowest. We're going to do monthly bands, weekly bands, and then into just seeing the whole thing as one 30-minute chart that we reference regularly, formerly known as ugly chart. All right, so here we are. We're now looking at an entire month. This is August on ES. You can see here, down here at the time, so August 1st through 30th. There's the whole month. Now, taking what we know about balance and imbalance and how to spot trend using the VWAP bands, there's a lot to see here. So as far as how often I reference this chart, I look at it once a day, usually in the morning. Sometimes, again in the afternoon if I need a reminder about where a particular level is. But I'm not trading these levels, to a tick. These are the higher the time frame, the more of a zone that becomes as far as precision for me. So I like to use, a daily VWAP band, you shouldn't lean on that as a level, but you can use it as more of a precise spot on the chart. Not that the monthly ones aren't good too, but it's just better to keep it as an idea. It's a zone. It's helping you with context. That's it. So what we know also, just like with the daily, I don't like to use the current month that we're in until about 5 trading days into the month. It just doesn't have enough information yet. I've found 5 trading days is pretty much a good balance to start looking at it. And then after 10 trading days, it gets really good. And then I'm using it for the rest of the month, for sure. At the end of this, I'll show you what we do for the first 7 days, 7 to 10 days, give or take. But right now, let's just focus on, we get through August 1st through the 5th. And we'll zoom in too. And we'll walk through the whole month and see what we see. All right, here we are, August 5th. Month had a pretty wild open, and again, this is what I mean by, I ignore the first couple days, because, essentially, this is a weekly VWAP until a week has passed, right? So, sold off, bought it back, and, 7 days in, 6 to 7 days in, we find ourselves in bullish balance. It's made some progress, but ultimately has pulled back, and now we're in bullish balance mode. We have also rejected the +1 here. So this tells me that the trend is not that strong, but it is there because the slope is, it's walking itself up. And these bands aren't as responsive also because, it's taking a lot more information into context, but you can still see the idea, right? Trend is still up, and we are at the higher of the two balance spots, the more bullish one. We make another push into the band. That's good. Pull back in. This is all medium trend stuff. And then once we get into the band, it becomes extreme trend. And we pull out of the band, medium trend. Back into the band, extreme trend. You see what's happening? So it's just like the day, except you just check on this to give you an idea of the general roadmap that you're looking at going into a day. Here's a good example. Here, let's use this one. It's August 7th, right? If I open up the chart and I see that we are outside of the second standard deviation band on the monthly, after plenty of time has been put in, I know that we are pushing the edge right now. It doesn't mean it can't go higher, but I have in the back of my mind that little head on a swivel moment, like, hey man, we are beyond the extreme that you would normally hold a trade into the actual daily VWAP band. And we're doing that on the monthly. Like, we are partying up here. Now, that being said, if I open the chart on August 8th and we're inside of the upper band, but we're at the lower side, I'm looking for this thing to bounce. This was actually a great day for that exact reason. Same with all these spots. So up here at the top of the band, I'm more cautious. And down here, I'm more willing to see that trend continuation. I'm still scalping also, by the way. I'm not swinging, what is this, 100 points? I ain't doing that. That's not happening. So this is just to use as broader context. That's it. All right. Now I'm going to add the weekly bands inside of the monthly band. So check this out. Now we are zoomed in a little more, and we have weekly bands to look at. The weekly band is like this kind of darker green. The monthly band is this purple, and you can kind of see how they intersect each other in here. So let's just go through it. Again, same with weekly bands. I like to give those 2 days. I like to give those Monday and Tuesday. Or if we have a Monday off, or if it's a holiday, then Tuesday, Wednesday. It gets 2 days before I'm willing to pay attention to what it's up to. Again, I'll show you what we do for the first 2 days, but we take 2 days before we start caring about what the weekly VWAP is up to. So since August 1st was a Friday and August 4th was a Monday, we are going to start here on August 5th. So RTH open, August 5th is right here. So let's zoom into that. Now, this is still Tuesday. It doesn't have a lot of info for the weekly, but we open up this chart and we see where we're at. You know, based on the monthly, we're extended. Based on the current weekly, we're in the top band. And, you know, we let the 5th play out, right? Which is this. It retraces to the other side of weekly balance, pivots back up, other side of weekly balance, pivots back up. So right here, for all of this Tuesday, the weekly is showing me that it's imbalance. And if you look at the monthly is showing me that it is in a bullish balance. And you can kind of see where, you see how it doesn't quite make it to the monthly VWAP here, but it does reach the other side of weekly balance. That's why we use these two things in concert, because the lower the time frame, the more precise those levels are going to be, right? So, I mean, monthly VWAP could be this whole range right here, and weekly VWAP is a little more precise. Anyway, we get to the 6th. We're still in balance until right here. This is when we leave. We leave the monthly balance up, and then we leave the weekly balance up. And now these two things are working together. And when one band is inside the other like this, price is staying in there, that is, you know, double confirmation that you're in a strong uptrend. When you lose it, same thing. Comes down, back into bullish balance, reclaims, continues up. Now a new week starts. This is August 10th into the 11th, right? So we check this out where we're at on the monthly. The monthly is very powerful by now. It's got 11 days worth of data. So we skip ahead 11th, 12th, 13th. So now this is 2 days into the weekly. So we're able to use this as context now because it has enough information. And lo and behold, we're at the top. We are pushing so hard into the top second deviation of both the monthly and the weekly. So, I mean, they're aligned, and they're aligned in that it's getting crazy up here. And, price can always go higher. And we get a good pullback to this weekly +1 here for continuation. We get a couple pullbacks that almost get to the weekly VWAP. That's it. But for the rest of that week, we're still in this monthly band. And then we just do it all again. Do you see what's going on? So, I mean, let's look at this. This is a great example. New week opens. This is August 18th and 19th, so Monday, Tuesday. Now, here's something useful. So we get into the 19th into the 20th, and we have lost the monthly band. This tells me, I mean, this slope is flat. We've lost the monthly band. So this tells me we have lost the monthly giga trend. And we're back into this bullish balance. However, on the weekly, which is more precise and closer to the time frame that we actually trade, right? On the weekly, we are selling off. We are in the bottom band on the weekly. So while we are in a bullish balance area on the monthly, we're also zooming in and seeing on the weekly that we are in a very bearish trend, like big time. This is Wednesday. This is plenty of time for the weekly VWAP to have some oomph, and it's telling us, "Hey, man, this week is bearish." So when they conflict like that, that's another reason to not be like, how do I apply this? I'm not as bullish here as I am here. Right? So up here, the weekly and monthly and price are all inside of a bullish thing. So weekly pulls back to, bullish balance, the top upper half, and spends some time in the upper band. And monthly, the price stays in the gigatrend zone. So I'm more willing to be bullish here than I am here. And that might sound crazy, that I would rather buy higher prices up here than lower prices over here. But this trend is better than this. This is conflicting. The monthly trend is ending, and the weekly trend is strong down. We eventually get to a spot here where they're both in the middle. We're right in. This probably pulls back to the 0.5. The 0.5s are also good. I'm just not trying to cloud the thing. You can experiment with those if you want. But if you also put a 0.5 standard deviation on the monthly, it'll give you a little more. You can make levels of bearish and neutral and all those different things. You can do that on your own time if you want to. So we finally get to a place in the weekly here where, the weekly flattens out. Price is in balance on the weekly, and price is in balance on the monthly. So this is where I'm neutral. So when they're telling me two neutral things, I'm more willing to be like, I don't know, we're right in the middle. Who knows what the hell's going to happen? No way to know. I mean, you don't ever know, but it's even more of a coin toss down here. And, price, pokes around. It does whatever it feels like it wants to do. Just, it's not really doing anything direct until right here. At the end of the week, we get that trend day up. And see, we fall back out of balance again. But here we reclaim it. So I'm more willing to be bullish once this is on the other side a bullish neutral, and we've pierced back into the monthly. So that is how I use the combination of monthly, the purple bands, and weekly to identify trend or neutrality and to give me some sort of, just a spidey sense about like, where are we at? Where are we really at here? Are we too extreme? Is it getting crazy? Or are we bullish neutral, but the weekly is selling off? Or is the weekly neutral, but the monthly is bullish? Like all those different things. Those all have different combinations of, the amount of risk I'm willing to take on, the amount of trade setups that I have in the playbook. Like the best thing I've ever done for my playbook is figure out a bunch of rules to eliminate plays when they have the least likely chance to work. So, a lot of my trades I can't take if we're down here, but I can take them up here. I know that might seem nuts that like I can't buy down here, but I can buy up here, but that's how it works. So hopefully that makes some sense. Feel free to ask me questions about this too. We can have maybe we'll do a little Twitter Spaces or something after a week, and anybody that has a question about this can pop on and be like, what are you talking about? How do I see that? But yeah, just throw monthly and weekly bands on and see if you see those similar things. Now I'm going to show you what we do for the first 7 days of a new month and also the first 2 days of a new week. I'm just going to do it to the monthly just to show you. But all you got to do is, if you got NinjaTrader, it's F6, draw a line. And what we're going to do is we are going to draw lines where all of the standard deviations and VWAP itself closes. Okay. So what we do here, I would also label these two. So this is previous month plus 2, previous month plus 1, previous month VWAP itself, previous month minus 1, and previous month minus 2. So moving into the first 7 days of September, so let's call it, we'll just go up through September 7th is where I'm really using this. I'm just using this for context. Sometimes it's creepy accurate. I'm not saying to use these things as actual levels, but I don't know. Do your own work, do your own homework, make your own process, but don't sleep on this stuff. All right, so right here we have the previous month plus 1, previous month minus 1. And here we have previous month's balance from about 65.40 to 64.04. Okay? Price can't get above it, and it retraces. It's just something that happens. I don't understand why, but for the first week, this is what I use. So up until September 7th, I'm considering this balance. I'm considering this bullish trend, and I'm considering this area bearish trend. It's just that easy. I also do this on previous weeks. You can do that, later if you want, but just mark the plus 2, plus 1, VWAP itself, minus 1, minus 2 on the weekly. And then I use that for Monday and Tuesday, or the first 2 days of the week that are trading, just as a guide. Same way I use all the other zones in any VWAP that I use them all the same, all of it. So yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. And, I hope this is helpful in some way. Feel free to hit me up with any questions. I'm on the internet. I'm in the Discord. It's not that it's not that big of a world, so I'm sure you can find me somehow if you needed to. And yeah, we'll revisit this in about a week and a half. I think I'll do a Twitter Spaces where we can have a good conversation about this and answer any questions there. And yeah, so thanks a lot.